Good morning, everyone. Matt Liano here. Thanks for joining us on our webinar, Exploring Revenue Streams with Invoices and Layaway. Today, co-piloting with me is our sales trainer, Liz Flack. So she's going to be fielding some questions if they come in during the presentation here. Leading in, reminder of resources. The webinar is being recorded. If you want to rewatch it, it'll be under our training videos section of our support page, support.revelsystems.com. And this is what the agenda is going to look like today. So we're going to go into how you can use invoices for your business, how that ties into layaway. So that may tie more into some of your retail businesses if you're a retail customer. It also will lend to catering setup. So how invoices and catering are related and how we can use those together for our more QSR, TSR related businesses here. So we're going to go into some detailed setup, what it looks like on the back end, what it looks like functioning on the front end, and eventually what it looks like in reporting, so you'll know where to look and how to make sure that your use of these features is benefiting your business. So starting out with invoices. The first thing you're going to do is, of course, enable invoices if it's not already in your system. As a refresher here, when you go into the back end, you can filter for invoices and you'll see the enable option on the very right, the first option there. And you also have the ability to send invoices via email from the POS system. So from your iPad, when the customer is right there in front of you, we can input their email to have the invoice sent over. And you can also enable printing from the POS. You also have some control over customization. So notice the invoice email subject can be edited there, as well as the body of that email and the template. So the template there is default. There is another section in the establishment tab of your management console for templates. The templates are used for receipts, in this case, invoice templates. So if you have a specified layout that you want to develop, you'll contact our support team, you'll work with them, and they'll upload this template into the backend so you can use this for invoices. So these are the options here that you have for invoice setup. Now on the POS, I wanted to give you a look into what the functionality looks like if you haven't seen it already. So on the POS, I'm on the main screen here on my order screen. And when you enable invoices, at the very bottom left hand of the ticket, you'll notice this envelope button here. So the envelope button indicates turning an order into an invoice. So when you tap that button at the top of the order ticket, it'll say invoice. In this case, I'm using a catering invoice, but you'll notice the invoice number right there at the top of the order ticket. Now, one benefit of using an invoice is that I can accept a deposit ahead of time, hold the invoice, and then accept the rest of the payment at a later date. So in this case, on my payment screen, I've input an amount of $105 I'm accepting. So I'm accepting a 50% deposit in this case here. So I've input that amount that I'm going to accept. I cash. And you'll notice the balance is adjusted on the order ticket. So there's my new balance there. So at this point, you'll notice the options below that balance to send invoice. That's if we had the email invoice option enabled. And we also have the hold invoice button there. So at this point, I've accepted my deposit and then I can hit done, or I'm sorry, hold the invoice. This is what it would look like when we indicate where we want to send the invoice. You can actually also customize the shortcut buttons here. So if your customers mainly have, Gmail accounts, Hotmail accounts, or Yahoo, what have you, you can actually change these out a little bit so you can simplify what it looks like here. And then to bring up any held invoice from your order screen, tap on orders, and then you'll see outstanding invoices, which will bring you to your list of outstanding invoices. Right. So here's the invoice here for the $210 that I accepted a 50% deposit on. Now, come the day when you're going to accept the rest of the payment, the first thing you need to do to make sure that it's all showing up correctly in reporting is to turn this back into an order. So when you accept the deposit initially, it shows up on your sales summary as a deposit under liabilities. And to make sure that the profit shows up on the day you accept full payment, you're going to turn the invoice back into an order by hitting the envelope button again, and you get this prompt here. So the system is confirming, are you sure you want to turn this back into an order? Once I do, you'll notice at the top of the order ticket, it indicates that you're back in order mode. And now I can accept full payment. So I'm indicating here I'm accepting the rest of the balance. My balance is now 0, and I'm closing out the order so that it shows up correctly in reporting. So invoices do have their own report. You're going to see it in your report section under other reports and invoices, right in the middle column there. As I mentioned, when you accept a deposit on an invoice, it will display as a liability, and you'll see this indicated on your sales summary. Right, so the bottom screenshot there is just an expanded view of the invoice report. And here's a view, sales summary report, or even in your operations, you'll see the liability section there, and you'll see it under deposits. Now, this is what brings me to layaway. So layaway is a feature that works only with invoices, and it's a way, if you toggle this, it's a way for you to kind of control the flow of the inventory. And you actually have control over if you want it to prompt for layaway or not. So by default, invoices can put products on layaway, and it will be removed from available inventory. Otherwise, there's no impact on inventory. And I want to show you the options here. So at the top there, if I turn layaway on, you have two options. By default, invoices put products on layaway, so the system actually won't prompt you. But if you choose the bottom option where it says prompt for layaway and you're on the POS on your iPad, it'll ask, do you want to put these selected items on layaway? So the invoiced items placed on layaway are going to remain in the inventory on hand. So that's the screenshot I have at the bottom there. There's a filter option here, so there's 3 options. So on hand, but are not available for sale. Only when the invoice is converted to an order and completed will those items be removed from inventory. So to break it down, on hand is your inventory, including layaway. Your for sale, so if you change your filter to for sale, it's your inventory minus layaway. And then of course the on layaway is only the layaway items. So in other words, your on hand minus your for sale items is what gives you your layaway amount. So it just depends on what you want to filter for to view what exactly is in inventory. So now that we've looked at the settings, looking at the functionality on the iPad, here I am in a retail store and I can invoice this item. Notice my order ticket says invoice already. When I go to pay, the system I have on my settings here turned on to prompt. So the system is prompting me, which items do you want to remove from inventory and put on layaway? So I choose my jacket, I close the invoice, I can bring up the invoice once again. And just like I showed you with the last POS view, when I bring up my invoice, I can turn it back into an order and close it. Otherwise, if you don't have the system prompt you, you have the actions window, which I have open for you here. So in an invoice, I can tap onto an item that's on the order ticket, and there's a layaway option in the bottom row at the very right. So that way it can just be a manual process. If you don't want the system to prompt you each and every time you use an invoice, you want to use layaway when at your discretion, you would do this option here. So you would just turn layaway on, and then you can have your employee choose when to use layaway. So from layaway, that brings me to catering. So Catering is an option that kind of ties in with the invoice. So if you're accepting these large catering orders, you can produce an invoice at first to invoice the customer. And then upon delivery or upon the date of the actual catering, we can accept full payment. So catering is just another way to kind of expand your menu offering. It's just a way to increase sales in a different revenue stream. So going from setup, we would turn catering on. It was the setting is catering delivery tracking. So it's that top option there. You can also have managers approve same-day catering orders because you just want to be sure that you have enough lead time to complete a catering order if you even accept same-day orders. A good note here is you can also choose which printer you want catering orders to come into if you have a specified printer. You can also delay the catering printer. So if you want the printer to print, in this case, 2 hours before the catering order, I can delay the time here. Otherwise, it'll print immediately. So some options that you have here is creating a catering category for clarity. So in terms of menu build, you can actually have a catering category on your menu so that each item is priced at the catering price. So let me see here. You can have set pricing or have price override, which I'll explain in a second here. So looking at my menu build, in this case, if my catering menu has a 10 cheese pizza as a product, and I know it'll be coming out to $50 each and every time, I've priced it specifically at $30. Otherwise, if your price varies based on, the size of the order, the size of that particular item, how much volume they're ordering, you can price it at 0, as I've done here. For example, the one topping is priced at 0, so that when I ring it up on my POS system, the system will prompt me for what price to use. So enabling price override is something you do on the back end, and you have the options here for one time, one day, or permanent. So in this case, if we were using this for invoice and catering, we might do it for maybe one time. One time means that it's that one instance you're going to be using the price override. The one day means that for an entire day or entire 24-hour period, that price will be applicable. So if someone else were to ring up that item, it would use that price that the person set for that day. Otherwise, if you use permanent, it'll push that price change to the back end until you change it in the back end or it's deactivated. On the individual product level, you can also enable price override. So rather than having it across the entire menu, you can have it for a specific product. So in this case, I'm in the product details of my one topping pizza, and I have the third option down there is allow price override. So I can turn that on for a specific product if I wanted. Now, if we were on the POS system, dealing with catering, it's its own dining option. The reason for that is once I choose catering, the system will prompt me for the time. So here I'm going to choose the date and time of the catering event. I'm going to associate a customer with this order. So at this point, I can choose an existing customer or add one to the CRM. And you'll see the order pop up here, catering. There's my 10 cheese pizza order. And at this point, I can also turn it into an invoice. If I use my price override option, you'll get this view here where the system prompts you to enter in that price. And then it'll go by the settings you chose. Is it going to be a one-time or a one-time deal, one for all day, or is it going to be a permanent change? Now for catering orders, you can open up your catering delivery options under orders, and that brings up your catering tracking screen. So at the top right, you'll notice I can look at all the different spans of time. So am I looking at a future order, the month's orders, the week, today, tomorrow, or yesterday? And then down in the bottom left, you'll notice you can see active, complete catering orders, and you can kind of play around with the filtering view. This screen also, if you look at the catering order in the gray line item, at the very right, there's a checkbox, which you can use to mark it as complete. This will move it over into the complete section of your catering orders. And at the bottom right, you have the option to go to that specific catering order. Now, your reporting for catering is a high-level view for reference. So this is under Reports, Other Reports, Catering Delivery Report. As you can see here, you see status changes, payments against invoices, but any other edit to the actual catering order needs to be done on the POS. So once again, this is more of a high-level view that you can see multiple catering orders at one time. Right. So that's pretty much it when it comes to invoices and the different features and functions that relate to it. It is a bit of a short webinar today, but I wanted to defer to Liz here to see what kind of questions we had waiting for us.
Looks like the question that we have is, what is the difference between on layaway, for sale, and on hand?
Yes, so this goes back to the reporting on the which report is it? Inventory report. So you can actually filter that through, and I can actually go back to that screenshot here. So looking at this report here, at the bottom, we have our on-hand, for sale, and on layaway. On-hand is everything, including what's on layaway. For sale is those items that are available to sell that are not on layaway. And then on layaway is everything that is specifically on layaway. So it gives you some more visibility into your inventory. So in case you're confused, like, why am I seeing these things even though I know I put them on layaway? If you just change your filtering view there, it'll clarify what you're looking at.
Okay, perfect.
Cool. Anything else?
No, I think that's it.
Right. So as always, if you have a question that you thought of, after we've completed the webinar, go ahead and email us at training@revelsystems.com. And once again, you'll find more of this at support.revelsystems.com. And we look forward to seeing you for our next webinar. Thanks again.